The rain battered the windows of the old New England house, but inside Emily's heart thundered louder, drowning out the storm. She stood frozen in the kitchen, her best friend Lily's mom Jane inches away, her hand lingering on Emily's wrist after passing her a mug of tea. That touch, electric, forbidden, ignited a spark Emily had spent years trying to smother. At 22, Emily Harper was no stranger to longing. Growing up in the small, picturesque town of Maplewood, Massachusetts, she'd always known she was different. While her high school friends swooned over boys, Emily's gaze drifted to the girls in the bleachers, their laughter, their grace. But in a town where conformity was king, she buried her truth deep, sharing it only with her sketchbook, where she poured her heart into charcoal lines and soft watercolors. Her best friend Lily was her anchor, bold, straight, and blissfully unaware of the secret Emily carried. And then there was Jane, Lily's mom, the woman who'd been a second mother to Emily since she was a kid, and now at 42, the source of a dangerous unspoken pull. Jane was everything Maplewood admired. Poised, kind, the perfect wife and mother. Her auburn hair, always swept into a loose bun, framed a face that held both strength and softness. She ran the town's only bookstore, a cozy haven where Emily spent hours flipping through novels while stealing glances at Jane's warm smile. But tonight, in the dim glow of the kitchen, something had shifted. Jane's touch wasn't just maternal, it was something else. Something that made Emily's breath catch and her world tilt. "Emily, you're shivering," Jane said, her voice low, almost a whisper as she stepped closer. The storm outside roared, but it was nothing compared to the chaos in Emily's chest. She wanted to pull away, to run, to pretend she didn't feel the heat of Jane's fingers against her skin. But she couldn't move. "I'm fine," Emily managed, her voice barely audible. She wasn't fine. She hadn't been fine since she realized at 19 that her feelings for Jane weren't just admiration. They were love, messy, impossible, and all-consuming. Jane's eyes, a deep hazel, searched Emily's face. "You don't look fine." She paused, her hand still on Emily's wrist, her thumb brushing lightly against her pulse. "You haven't been yourself lately. What's going on?" Emily's throat tightened. How could she say it? How could she tell the woman who'd bandaged her scraped knees as a child, who'd taught her how to bake cinnamon rolls, that she was in love with her? That every time Jane laughed or tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, Emily's heart broke a little more? "I'm just tired," Emily lied, pulling her hand away. The absence of Jane's touch felt like a wound. She turned toward the counter, gripping the edge to steady herself. Jane didn't move. "Emily," she said softly, "you don't have to hide from me." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Emily's pulse raced. Did Jane know? Had she seen the way Emily's eyes lingered too long? The way her cheeks flushed when Jane brushed past her in the bookstore? Or was this just Jane being Jane, kind, perceptive, maternal? Before Emily could respond, the front door slammed open, and Lily burst in, shaking rain from her coat. "God, it's a nightmare out there," she said, oblivious to the tension in the room. At 22, Lily was a whirlwind blonde, confident, and fiercely loyal to Emily. They'd been inseparable since middle school, sharing secrets, dreams, and late-night drives. But there was one secret Emily could never share. Not with Lily. "Hey Em, you staying over?" Lily asked, tossing her keys onto the counter. "Mom's making her famous chili tomorrow, and you know you can't resist." Emily forced a smile, her heart still pounding from Jane's words. "Maybe," she said, avoiding Jane's gaze. Jane busied herself at the stove, her back to them, but Emily caught the slight tremble in her hands as she stirred a pot. Something was different tonight, and it terrified her. That night, Emily lay awake in the guest room, the storm still raging outside. She stared at the ceiling, replaying Jane's touch, her words. "You don't have to hide from me." What did that mean? Was it possible that Jane, married for 20 years to Lily's dad, Mark, felt something too? The thought was absurd, dangerous. Jane was straight. She had the perfect life, husband, daughter, bookstore. Emily was just a kid to her, wasn't she? But the way Jane had looked at her tonight, it wasn't the look of a mother or a friend. It was something deeper, something that mirrored the ache in Emily's chest. She rolled over, pulling her sketchbook from her bag. Flipping to a blank page, she began to draw Jane's face, her soft smile, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. Drawing was the only way Emily could make sense of her feelings. The only way to let them breathe without destroying everything. Downstairs, Jane sat alone in the living room, a glass of wine untouched on the table. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside her. For years she told herself her feelings for Emily were just affection, the kind any mother would feel for her daughter's best friend. But Emily wasn't a child anymore. She was a woman, vibrant, sensitive, with eyes that held a quiet intensity that made Jane's heart race in ways she couldn't ignore. Jane had spent her life doing what was expected. She married Mark at 20, had Lily at 21, and built a life that looked perfect from the outside. But Mark was always working, always distant, and the bookstore was her only escape. Emily, with her quiet strength and endless curiosity, had become a light in Jane's world, a light she was terrified to acknowledge. She closed her eyes, remembering the feel of Emily's wrist under her fingers. She'd wanted to say more, to ask why Emily seemed so haunted lately, but Lily's arrival had shattered the moment, and now Jane was left with questions she wasn't sure she could face. The next morning the storm had passed, leaving Maplewood draped in golden autumn light. Emily joined Lily and Jane for breakfast, the air thick with unspoken tension. Lily chattered about her new job at a Boston marketing firm, oblivious to the way Emily and Jane avoided each other's eyes. You should come to Boston with me this weekend," Lily said, pouring coffee. "There's this new bar, and I swear you'd love it." Emily nodded, forcing enthusiasm. "Sounds fun." But her mind was on Jane, who was slicing apples at the counter, her movements deliberate, almost too careful. "Jane, you okay?" Emily asked before she could stop herself. Jane froze, then turned, her smile tight. "Just thinking about the bookstore. We're getting a new shipment today." Lily rolled her eyes. "Mom, you work too much. You need a life outside that store." Jane laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe you're right." Emily's heart twisted. She wanted to reach out to ask what was wrong, but Lily was there and the moment passed. Later at the bookstore, Emily helped Jane unpack boxes of new releases. The quiet between them was heavy, charged. When their hands brushed while reaching for the same book, Emily felt a jolt, and Jane pulled back as if burned. "Emily," Jane said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to talk." Emily's stomach dropped. "About what?" Jane hesitated, her eyes searching Emily's. "About us." The word hung between them, fragile and terrifying. Emily's heart raced, hope and fear colliding. Was Jane about to change everything or shatter her completely? Emily's breath caught in her throat, the bookstore's cozy shelves suddenly feeling like walls closing in. Jane's words about unspoken in her mind, each syllable a spark that could ignite her world or burn it to ashes. She stood frozen, clutching a hardcover, her heart a wild drumbeat. Jane's hazel eyes were wide, vulnerable, as if she'd surprised herself by speaking. "I didn't mean to say it like that," she said quickly, turning to stack books with trembling hands. I've noticed how distant you've been. I'm worried about you, Emily." Emily's hope deflated, but the ache in her chest didn't. Was that all Jane meant? Worry? Or was there more, hidden behind her careful words? "I'm fine," Emily said, her voice tight. She set the book down, avoiding Jane's gaze. "Just figuring things out." Jane stepped closer, her presence warm and overwhelming. "You're not fine. I know you, Emily. You've been carrying something heavy, and She paused, her voice softening. "I want to help." The sincerity in Jane's tone was too much. Emily wanted to confess everything, her love, her fear, the years of silent longing. But this was Jane, Lily's mom, married, straight, untouchable. "You can't help," Emily said, her voice breaking. "Not with this." Jane's brow furrowed, and for a moment, Emily thought she saw something flicker in her eyes, recognition, maybe, or curiosity. But before Jane could respond, the bell above the bookstore door chimed, and a customer walked in, shattering the moment. The rest of the day, Emily threw herself into work, shelving books and organizing displays, anything to avoid Jane's searching looks. But every time their eyes met, the air crackled with unspoken questions. By closing time, Emily's nerves were frayed, her heart a battlefield of hope and dread. As they locked up, Jane touched Emily's arm. "Come over tonight," she said softly. "Lily's going out with friends. We can talk." Emily's stomach flipped. "Talk about what?" she asked, her voice barely steady. Jane hesitated, then gave a small, uncertain smile. Just come over. That evening, Emily sat on Jane's couch, clutching a glass of water like a lifeline. The house was quiet, Lily gone, Mark at a conference in Boston. The absence of noise made every sound Jane's footsteps, the clink of her wineglass feel amplified, intimate. Jane sat across from her, her sweater slipping off one shoulder, revealing a sliver of collarbone that Emily tried not to stare at. Emily, Jane began, her voice steady but laced with something raw. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. More than I should. Emily's heart stopped. What do you mean? Jane set her glass down, her hands twisting in her lap. I don't know how to say this without sounding wrong. But you're not just Lily's friend to me anymore. You're someone I care about. Deeply. The words hit Emily like a tidal wave. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. Jane, you're married, she said, her voice trembling. You have a family. You're straight. Jane flinched, but her eyes didn't waver. I know, she whispered. I've spent my whole life doing what's expected, marrying Mark, being the perfect mom, the perfect wife. But with you. She trailed off, her cheeks flushing. You make me feel things I didn't know I could feel. Emily's world tilted. This was everything she dreamed of and everything she feared. Jane, you don't know what you're saying, she said, standing, her hands shaking. This could ruin everything, Lily, your marriage, everything. Jane stood too, closing the distance between them. I know, she said, her voice breaking. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. Can you? Emily's breath hitched. Jane was so close, her warmth, her scent, lavender and old books, overwhelming. For a moment, Emily let herself imagine it. Leaning in, kissing Jane, letting the world fall away. But the weight of reality crashed down. I can't, she said, stepping back. Not like this. She grabbed her jacket and fled into the night, her heart splintering with every step. The next week was torture. Emily avoided the bookstore, ignored Lily's texts, and threw herself into her art, sketching Jane's face obsessively. Each stroke was a confession, a release, a wound. She couldn't face Jane, couldn't face the truth of what they'd almost said. But Maplewood was small, and avoidance was impossible. At the town's autumn festival, Emily ran into Lily, who dragged her to the bookstore's booth, where Jane was handing out bookmarks. Their eyes met, and Emily felt the air leave her lungs. You've been ghosting me, Lily said, nudging Emily. What's up with you? Nothing, Emily lied, her gaze flickering to Jane, who was watching her with an intensity that made her skin burn. Later, as the festival lights twinkled, Jane found Emily by the cider stand. You can't keep running, Jane said, her voice low. We need to figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, Emily snapped, her voice sharper than she meant. You're married. I'm your daughter's best friend. This is wrong. Jane's face crumpled, but she didn't back down. It doesn't feel wrong, she said softly. And I think you know that. Emily's heart ached, torn between love and guilt. She wanted to believe Jane, to let herself fall, but the risk was too great. I need time, she said finally, turning away. As she walked through the festival, the laughter and music fading behind her, Emily felt the weight of her choice. She was protecting Lily, protecting Jane's family, but at what cost to herself? Emily's days blurred into a haze of avoidance and longing. She stayed away from the bookstore, from Jane, from the truth that threatened to unravel her. But every night, her dreams betrayed her, Jane's voice, her touch, her eyes, pulling Emily into a world she couldn't have. Lily noticed the change. You're acting weird, she said one afternoon, cornering Emily at the coffee shop where Emily worked part-time. You barely talk to me anymore. Did I do something? Emily's heart sank. Lily's blue eyes, so like Jane's, were wide with hurt. No, it's not you, Emily said, forcing a smile. Just school stress. Lily didn't buy it, but she let it go, launching into a story about her Boston job. Emily nodded along, but her mind was elsewhere, in Jane, on the confession that had shattered her defenses. That evening, unable to resist, Emily found herself at the bookstore after hours. The lights were low, the air thick with the scent of paper and ink. Jane was alone, rearranging a display, her movements graceful but tense. Emily, Jane said, startled when she saw her. I didn't expect you. I didn't expect to be here. Emily admitted, her voice raw. But I can't stop thinking about you. Jane's breath caught, and for a moment they just stood there, the space between them electric. Then Jane stepped forward, her hand reaching out but stopping short. I'm scared too, she said. But I can't keep pretending this isn't real. Emily's resolve crumbled. What do we do, Jane? This could destroy everything. Jane's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I don't know, she admitted. But I know I've never felt this alive before. Not with Mark, not with anyone. The words were a lifeline and Emily grabbed it. She closed the distance, her hand brushing Jane's cheek. Jane leaned into the touch, her eyes closing, and for a moment, the world was just them, two hearts beating in sync, defying the rules. But the moment shattered when the bookstore phone rang, jarring them apart. Jane answered, her voice unsteady, and Emily stepped back, her heart pounding. It was Mark checking in from his conference. I have to go, Emily said, her voice barely a whisper, and she fled before Jane could stop her. The next day, Emily threw herself into her art, sketching until her hands ached. Her latest piece was Jane, her face half in shadow, half in light, a reflection of the conflict tearing Emily apart. She was falling for Jane, but every step closer felt like a betrayal of Lily, of everything she'd known. At home, Jane was unraveling too. Mark was back, his presence a reminder of the life she'd built. He was kind, dependable but distant, their marriage more habit than passion. At night when he slept, Jane lay awake, thinking of Emily, her quiet strength, her vulnerability, the way she made Jane feel seen for the first time in years. She wanted to talk to Emily, to figure out what this meant, but fear held her back. What if Emily was right? What if this destroyed everything? A week later, Lily invited Emily to a family dinner. Emily tried to decline, but Lily insisted, and the thought of seeing Jane again was too much to resist. The dinner was torture. Mark was charming, Lily was her usual vibrant self, and Jane was a quiet storm, her eyes meeting Emily's across the table, saying everything they couldn't voice. After dessert, Emily offered to help with dishes, needing an escape. In the kitchen, Jane joined her, their hands brushing in the soapy water. The air crackled and Emily couldn't take it anymore. Jane, we can't keep doing this, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm falling for you and it's killing me. Jane's eyes widened, and then in a moment that stopped time, she leaned in and kissed Emily. It was soft, tentative, but it set Emily's world ablaze. For a heartbeat, nothing else mattered, not Lily, not Mark, not the consequences. But then footsteps echoed in the hall, and they sprang apart, hearts racing. Lily walked in, oblivious, grabbing a glass of water. You guys okay? She asked, frowning slightly. Yeah, Jane said, her voice too high. Just catching up. Emily nodded, her heart in her throat, and excused herself, fleeing into the night. The kiss had changed everything, and there was no going back. Emily didn't sleep that night. The memory of Jane's lips, soft, warm, forbidden, burned through her, leaving her raw and restless. She sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by sketches of Jane, each one a testament to the love she couldn't escape. By morning, guilt had settled in like a fog. She'd kissed her best friend's mom. She'd crossed a line, and the weight of it crushed her. Lily deserved better. Mark deserved better. And Jane deserved to be free, not tangled in a secret that could destroy her life. Emily avoided the bookstore, ignored Jane's text, short, tentative messages that broke her heart. Can we talk? I'm sorry if I scared you. Please, Emily. Each one was a dagger, but Emily couldn't face her, not yet. Jane was drowning in her own turmoil. The kiss had awakened something she'd buried for years, a part of herself she'd never dared explore. Growing up, she'd followed the script. Marry young, build a family, be the perfect wife. But with Emily, she felt alive, seen, desired in a way Mark had never made her feel. She tried to act normal, running the bookstore, cooking dinner for Mark and Lily, but every moment was haunted by Emily's absence. She wanted to run to her, to beg her to talk, but fear of rejection, of ruining her family, kept her rooted. One evening, unable to bear it, Jane drove to Emily's apartment. She stood outside, heart pounding, and knocked. When Emily opened the door, her eyes red from crying, Jane's resolve nearly broke. Emily, please, Jane said, her voice trembling. I can't stop thinking about you. About us. Emily shook her head, stepping back. There is no us, Jane. You're married. Lily's my best friend. This is wrong. It doesn't feel wrong, Jane said, stepping inside. I know it's complicated, but I've never felt this way before. Not in 20 years of marriage. Emily's eyes glistened. What about Lily? What about Mark? You think they'll just accept this? Jane's shoulders sagged. I don't know, she admitted. But I can't keep living a lie. I need to be honest with myself, with you. Emily wanted to believe her, but the risk was too great. I can't do this to Lily, she said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. Jane left, her heart heavy, and Emily collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Days later, Lily confronted Emily at the coffee shop. What's going on with you and Mom? She asked, her tone sharp. She's been a mess and you've been dodging me. Spill it. Emily's stomach dropped. Had Lily seen something? Heard something? Nothing's going on, she lied, her voice weak. Lily's eyes narrowed. Don't lie to me, Em. I know you. And I know Mom's not herself. Did you guys fight? Emily shook her head, tears threatening. It's complicated, Lily. I need space. Lily's face softened, but her confusion was clear. Whatever it is, you can tell me. You're my best friend. The words cut deeper than Lily could know. Emily nodded, promising to talk soon, but as Lily left, Emily felt the walls closing in. She couldn't keep this secret much longer. That night, Emily went to the bookstore, her heart a tangle of fear and need. Jane was closing up, her face pale, her eyes tired. When she saw Emily, hope flickered across her face. I can't stay away, Emily said, her voice raw. I tried, but I can't. Jane crossed the room in 3 steps, pulling Emily into her arms. They stood there, holding each other, the world fading away. For the first time, Emily let herself feel the full weight of her love, and it was both terrifying and beautiful. We'll figure this out, Jane whispered, her breath warm against Emily's ear. Together. But as they held each other, the bell above the door chimed, and Emily's heart stopped. Lily stood in the doorway, her face a mask of shock and betrayal. Lily's voice cut through the silence like a blade. What the hell is this? Emily and Jane sprang apart, the warmth of their embrace replaced by cold dread. Lily's eyes, wide with disbelief, darted between them, her hands trembling as she dropped her bag. Lily, Jane started, her voice shaking. Please let me explain. Explain what? Lily snapped, her voice rising. That you're... What? With my best friend? Mom, you're married. Emily's throat closed. She wanted to disappear, to undo the last 10 seconds, but Lily's hurt was a living thing filling the room. Lily, I'm so sorry, Emily whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Sorry. Lily's laugh was bitter. You're my best friend, Em. And you're... What? In love with my mom. The words hung heavy, and Emily couldn't deny them. She nodded, her heart breaking. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. I tried to stop it. Lily turned to Jane, her eyes blazing. And you? What's your excuse? You're supposed to be my mom, not this. Jane's face crumpled. I know, she said, her voice barely audible. I never wanted to hurt you, Lily. I love you more than anything. Then why? Lily demanded, tears streaming down her face. Why would you do this? Jane took a shaky breath. Because for the first time in my life, I'm being honest with myself. I've spent years pretending, trying to be what everyone expects. But with Emily, I feel like me. Lily shook her head, backing toward the door. I can't deal with this, she said, and then she was gone, the bell chiming in her wake. The next week was a storm of silence. Lily didn't answer Emily's calls or texts. Jane, torn between her daughter and her heart, withdrew, her bookstore shifts mechanical, her smiles forced. Emily buried herself in her art, but every sketch was of Jane or Lily, her guilt and love bleeding onto the page. She met Jane in secret at a park on the edge of town, the autumn leaves crunching under their feet. We can't keep doing this, Emily said, her voice hollow. Lily hates me. Your marriage is falling apart. We're hurting everyone. Jane's eyes were red from crying. I told Mark, she said quietly. About us. Emily's heart stopped. What did he say? He was hurt, angry. But he said he's known for a while that something was missing. He's staying at a hotel for now. Jane's voice broke. I didn't want this, Emily, but I can't go back to pretending. Emily reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. What about Lily? Jane's tears fell. She needs time. But I have to believe she'll come around. She's my daughter and I love her. But I love you too. The words were a balm and a wound. Emily wanted to hold on to them, to believe they could build something real, but the cost was so high. Days later, Emily found Lily at their old high school bleachers, a place they'd spent countless nights dreaming about the future. Lily's face was pale, her eyes distant. I'm sorry, Emily said, sitting beside her. I never wanted to hurt you. Lily didn't look at her. I just don't get it, she said. You and Mom? How did this even happen? Emily took a deep breath, telling her everything, the years of longing, the stolen glances, the kiss that changed it all. She didn't hold back, letting her truth spill out, raw and unfiltered. Lily listened, her expression softening slightly. You really love her, don't you? She said finally. Emily nodded, tears falling. More than anything. But I love you too, Lily. You're my best friend. Lily sighed, rubbing her eyes. I don't know if I can accept this. Not yet. But I don't want to lose you, Em. Or Mom. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Months later, Maplewood was quiet, the wound still healing. Jane and Mark separated, their divorce amicable but painful. Lily started talking to Emily again. Their friendship fragile but growing stronger. Jane and Emily moved slowly, careful not to push Lily too far. But their love was a quiet constant, a light in the dark. One evening at the bookstore, Jane hung a new painting on the wall, Emily's. A portrait of the three of them, Jane, Emily, and Lily, laughing under a golden autumn sky. It was a promise, a hope for a future where love didn't have to mean loss. As Jane locked up, Emily took her hand, their fingers lacing together. We're going to be okay, Jane said, her voice steady with conviction. Emily smiled, her heart full. Yeah, she said. We are. They stepped into the night, the stars above Maplewood bright and endless, a reminder that love, in all its messy, beautiful forms, was worth fighting for. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.